One thing that I've noticed about life is you don't get to the next level, whatever that level is for you, until you pass the test. It's like life is a video game, right? You can get unlimited lives, meaning you have unlimited chances, but you will not get to the next part, the next chapter, until you prove to the universe or to God, whatever your higher power is, until you prove to him that you are capable of changing that aspect about you that is holding you back from what it is that you want out of life. For those of you guys who are new to my channel, hello, my name is Jasmine, and I'm so glad to have you. And reflecting back on all of the things that I've changed about myself, I've slowly been graduating in life. I've slowly been getting closer and closer and closer to the goals that I have for myself because I had to change who I was. See, contrary to popular belief, I really do believe that we attract what we are. You don't attract what you want until you become the version of yourself that you must become in order to maintain those things. See, I used to struggle with discipline. I was always ambitious. I always had goals. And, for a short period of time, I would work really hard on that goal, whatever it was. But I was never able to follow it all the way through. I was never able to accomplish that goal because I lacked discipline. And that was with all parts of my life. I used to be 100 pounds overweight. I used to be an alcoholic. I used to have a 9 to 5 that I hated. And so I would come up with these business ideas. And a lot of these ideas are pretty good ideas. But because I lacked discipline, I never followed it all the way through. I would give up before it got too hard, right? I couldn't stick with something for an extended period of time. I couldn't keep going even when things got hard. I would quit. And I wasn't going to make it to the next goal, into the next milestone, into the next chapter, until I changed that. See, there's probably things that you want to accomplish, but you'll never accomplish that thing until you change who you are. Maybe you struggle with discipline. Maybe you struggle with consistency. Well, God or the universe will continue to test you with the particular thing that you struggle with, and you will not graduate, you will not get to that new level until you pass that test. So if it takes you 5 years to pass it, well, then you're going to waste 5 years. If it takes you 10 years to pass it, then you will waste 10 years. Some people waste their whole life because they refuse to change who they are to get the things that they want. The life that you live is a direct reflection of the choices that you make, right? And so for me, I used to drink a lot because I hated my job. I was miserable. And I didn't see any way out. I felt trapped, and I felt like that's where I was going to be for the rest of my life. And so I would drink to cope with that. But the drinking never fixed the problem. Alcohol never fixes your problem. None of the vices that you have fix your problem, by the way. If anything, it just highlights the issue. It doesn't fix anything. And so for me, I was using alcohol as a way to cope. So I would be sad before I drank, and alcohol would just intensify it and make me even more sad. If I was angry before I drank, alcohol would just intensify that and make me more angry, but it never fixed anything. But my alcohol abuse was a direct reflection of all the choices that I was making. Drinking every day, not applying to new jobs, not following through with the business ideas that I had that could have gotten me out of there sooner, right? Not exercising, because all that stress that I had at my job, I could have just went to the gym and used weightlifting as a way to cope, right? But I chose alcohol. And so all that depression that I was struggling with, well, it was a direct reflection of the choices that I was making. Because none of the habits that I had back then were positive. So it made sense as to why I felt so depressed. And my alcohol abuse just kind of intensified that. And I wasn't going to get out of that loop, that toxic loop of feeling depressed, drinking, being miserable, drinking. And I wasn't going to get out of that loop until I changed a habit, until I changed a routine, right? So the very first thing that I started doing was I decided to stop drinking as much. So I would cut back, got comfortable with cutting back, would cut back more, till I finally quit all the way. And once I quit and I stopped drinking for an extended period of time, well, it felt like the universe was graduating me to a new level, right? Because then it brought my online business into my life. And because I had worked on discipline and, not caving when things get hard, following through with the commitment that I made to myself, well, now God is bringing this business into my life, which is the same habits that I need, staying consistent, being disciplined even when things get hard, the same habits, the same routines that I need in order to be successful at that. But I really believe that I would have never gotten my online business if I didn't pass the first test, which was getting rid of the alcohol. I really don't believe it, because I wouldn't have had time. How would I have time to run a business if I'm drinking all day? I wouldn't have. I was drinking all day, all night. I would have never been able to do that. How would I have been able to have been successful with creating content consistently and growing my platforms if I was drinking all the time? I wouldn't have been able to. So I had to become a better version of myself. I had to become a version of myself that doesn't need alcohol in order to get things done. And once I proved to God or to the universe, whatever, that I was able to do that, I passed the test, well, now I got something into my life. I got my business. And then in business, I had more tests and things that I had to overcome. And I was going to continue to get tested on this thing until I passed that test in order to get something better, right? The next test was how to stay consistent, even if you're not getting the results that you want. And I was going to continue to face that test every single day, showing up even when I don't feel like it, showing up when I'm not making money. Until I can continue to do that and just keep my head down and keep pushing, God wasn't going to give me my first $5,000. God wasn't going to give me my first $10,000 until I passed that test of showing up even when it's hard, showing up even when no one's watching, right? I really believe that life is just one big video game. And just like you're making progress, you can lose progress. If you start slipping back into your old ways, I believe things will get stripped from you. You might have passed a particular test a few years ago and proven to the universe or to God, whatever, that you are capable of X, Y, and Z. But the minute you start falling back into your old routines and habits, the progress that you made can slowly slip back or slip away from you, and you will find yourself, what's the opposite of progress? Going backwards. You will find yourself going backwards because you're going back into your old ways, right? I don't think people look at life like that, and so then therefore they don't get everything that they want because they don't realize that they're constantly being tested. You are your own worst enemy. It is you versus you. The competition in life is, can you be different than you were yesterday? And unfortunately, a lot of people cannot. A lot of people will live every day doing the same exact thing. This is why you run into people that you haven't seen in a very long time, maybe 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Or you get on Facebook, right? Facebook tends to be people that we know or that we've had interactions with at some point. And you notice they're complaining about the same things that they were complaining about however long ago. You notice that? It's always somebody, whether it was from school or college or a family member or, it was someone. And when you get back on there and you haven't seen them in a while, they're literally doing the same exact thing that they were doing when you parted ways however long ago. Well, that's because they live every day doing the same thing. They're not looking at life as a video game. They're not looking at life as, passing tests and trying to get to that highest version. They're not waking up every day trying to figure out how they can be better today than they were yesterday. And that's why years go by and they are the exact same situation because they refuse to change. But when you understand that every day you're being tested and you just have to show up better than you were yesterday, I promise you that's when you start to get the results that you want. But you cannot get those results if you don't become the version of you that you need to become in order to attract them. Another test that I think life has tested me on, and I was failing at it for a really long time, money. Being a good steward of money. When I first started my online business, I started during COVID, pandemic, okay? Money was booming, all right? Everybody had money. Everybody was ball out of control. People were taking trips. Like, life was great, right? But that's because there was so much money being pushed into the economy, right? There were stimulus checks. There were unemployment checks, there was PPP loans, like everyone was just balling out of control, right? And so my business was making crazy amounts of money in a very short period of time. And because I was new to entrepreneurship, I didn't realize that this was just, inflated results. I thought this is how it's going to always be. And if anything, I'm going to go up. So in my mind, I'm like, well, shoot, if I'm making this in month 3, month 6, just imagine what I'll be making a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. I'm thinking it's just going to go up. And so because that was the mindset I had, being fresh into entrepreneurship, I started spending like I was going to continue to just make more and more and more and more and more, not realizing that the reason why I'm making so much is just because people have money. And so I started just spending out of control. I was just buying stuff just to buy it. Like I said, F it. I wasn't being a good steward of my money. And so when the economy crashed, I guess you could say it crashed, when money slowed up and my business stopped making as much money, it actually started making less. Well, now I got financial problems. Now I'm struggling to maintain a lifestyle because I've opened up bills, geared around how much I was making. And so I was struggling for a while. But one of the things I had to realize is, well, that's just a reflection. My financial problems are a direct reflection of the choices that I made, not being a good steward of my money. And I was going to continue to run into that problem, living paycheck to paycheck, until I changed who I was. I don't believe that the universe was going to bless me with more money until I could prove that I know how to save money, that I know how to invest money, that I know how to be a good steward of money, right? And again, I also struggled with finances even when I had a 9-to-5. I was making decent money, so I was just buying stuff. And then I was always living paycheck to paycheck. I lived paycheck to paycheck damn near all of my 20s and half of my 30s. So it wasn't or my early 30s. It wasn't until I got smart with money and learned how to tell myself, no, I don't need that, or that's not something I need to buy right now, or let me save for that, let me stop charging things, right? It wasn't until I started being a better steward of my money where the universe started giving me more, right? While everyone is struggling, trying to figure out how they're going to pay this, that, and the third, I'm comfortable. But that's only because I had to become a new version of myself. I had to become a woman who could attract good finances, which means I had to change who I was. And I was going to continue to run into this lesson over and over and over again until I decided to change. Life is one big old video game. If you can just be better than you were yesterday, I promise you, you will eventually get to the results that you want, whatever it is that you're working towards. But you will not get there if you do not prove that you can become the woman who can attract that thing. Leave a comment down below. Let me know your thoughts. I can't wait to read what you have to say. Also, make sure you subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And do not forget to join the Patreon. The link is down below in my description. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.